Me again, back with another video update on the Carrera. It has been a hot while since I've done a video on this bike. It's pretty late. I'm currently in the Corona bowler lockdown. I ran out of beer, and I didn't go riding today, so pretty bored. The reason why I haven't done a update on this bike in a while is because I was going to do one and then I never bothered and I shot the footage and didn't upload it or do anything with it. Yeah, so what have I been doing with this bike for the past, how long have I had this now? About 8 months or so. I rode it around Cannock Chase once, around the Monkey Trail. The only problems, the only problems I had were the original brakes, the back brake. Well, to be honest, I don't know whether it just needs bleeding or whether the caliper had leaked or what, but it started sticking and then eventually it went mushy and then it just pulled all the way to the bar. So luckily, I have my other bikes here. The high bike, I upgraded the brakes on, so I took the brakes off the high bike and put them on this bike. So it's got some TRP G-Spec Trail S, are they called? Yep, Trail S. They are 4-pot brakes. They kind of look a bit ridiculous. It's hard to kind of come through and tell on the video, but they are like, they have massive master cylinders here. They for the bike, and especially it's still got the little rotors on there, the 160mm. The levers do look massive. I also put the Drivetrain bar and stem that used to be on the Vitus because I upgraded I kind of have an upgrade path for my bike, so I'll buy something for the high bike and then that will probably be put on the old components from the high bike will probably be put on the Vitus if they're still good components. Obviously I'm not going to put broken derailleurs or anything like that on it, and then the Carrera might get what the Vitus once had. So these were originally on that bike. The stem is a little bit long. The original stem on this bike is 50mm. This might be a 75 or an 80mm. I did kind of start to feel my back ache a bit when I was riding the other day on this. I will put some footage, kind of interject some footage of me riding into the video. So yeah, the reason why I put these on is basically strength, to be honest. These bars, like the original Carrera bars, unbranded but have like swirly bits on, you could actually kind of, if I got really angry when I was like riding to work, I could kind of do that and I could actually feel the bars flexing. Decent set of handlebars, you won't feel them do that, so they are pretty cheap and flexy. So I just want the reassurance when I go off a drop or a shitty little jump on the trail that the whole front end's not going to fold. Yeah, so everything else on here at the top is pretty much standard. We've got the standard grips, still the standard gears. When I just spoke about the brakes, I didn't really mention too much about these. The performance wise, the reason why I upgraded these over the when they're on the high bike, they just feel really wooden, and they have like the feel of a kind of powerful brake, but you just don't get the power even on the high bike with the 200mm rotor on the front and the 180 out back. They're not too bad on this bike because, to be honest, with these Kenda 2.1 tyres, they kind of break away quite easily under braking, especially in the wet. So they're more than ample for this bike, even with the 160 rotors, but they could be improved a lot more with a 180. I wouldn't go as far as a 200 on a bike like this. The forks would probably just snap as soon as you pull the front brake. So yeah, moving on to the forks. They were getting a bit gunky. Well, to be honest, these Suntour forks, they're not really very well sealed. They're just, elastomers or whatever, and they use grease to lubricate. I mean, most suspension forks now do for the kind of sliding assembly, the stanchions and all that stuff. But especially these, like the only form of lubrication. There's no sealed cartridge or anything, so it's just spring, elastomer, and grease. So I took the lowers off. Couldn't be bothered. These top caps are plastic. You'll just chew them. Probably, and if you got the correct tool, you'll probably just chew them to bits. So yeah, I took the lowers off. I made sure I packed these with grease because they are a very pogo-y fork. There's no real rebound damping other than, packing it with some quite thick grease and hoping that it returns at a slow rate. Obviously with that you will add a little bit of compression damping in theory. So yeah, they when I rode the other day, it had stiffened the action up quite a bit. I didn't really feel that they were as dangerous once they've been slowed down a bit, but yeah, it does take to be honest, they only get moving when you get decent impact, little drop or jump or something. Wheels same as standard. The first time I rode this bike, I had a spoke come loose, so the front wheel is slightly out of true. But second time round, when I would hazard a guess that I was actually riding harder, I've not had any trouble with the spoke. So maybe it was a spoke that wasn't tightened up by the wheel building machine, because they're actually, made by machines. Maybe there's something wrong with the machine. Maybe I just hit something hard and didn't realise. I don't know. Yeah, no issues since. This fender is actually a RockShox one, and the reason why the RockShox is on the underside is not because this is a Suntour fork. It's actually because it came with these forks, because I upgraded the forks on the high bike. So I had that on there, put the bike in the car, and then obviously the fender just folds over, doesn't tick creases, ruins it. But then if I kind of put it upside down on this bike, then I don't really put this bike in the car, apart from the other day, which was an exception, and it holds its shape and everything, so it's pretty fine. And then you don't look like a bellend riding around with RockShox mudguard on a SR Suntour fork. Should also add, the forks that are on this, the Suntour ones, they're tapered. Tapered forks do not actually fit in this frame, which is obvious because this is a 1 1/8 steerer. What you may not know until you actually try to do this is you can't fit a 1.5-inch taper fork, even if you get the headset that brings the bearings, outboard of the headset. These are like a semi-integrated 1 1/8 design, and as you can see, it kind of it's kind of like I wouldn't say buttered tube, but it kind of, the profile you will not get physically. The 1.5-inch steerer probably has to come to about here, and you can see there the kind of flange of the head tube like tapers in, because it's semi-integrated and the bearings actually sit in that flange. So you can't fit a 1.5. Well, you might be able to if there's some sort of massive, external bearing that's like this big. But with the cheapo brand X one I got from Chain Reaction, it wouldn't work. So yeah, that is one thing to consider with this bike if you've got one and you're thinking of upgrading it. Seat, to be honest, the original one, it's not too bad. Seat post doesn't really do anything. I have had problems in the past with single bolt clamps. Once they kind of start to come undone, and it's happened a few times, you do tend to have problems. I don't know whether it's the bolt stretching or just the threads getting looser. But back when I was younger, I used to have loads of seats snap off and they just keep coming loose, and you tighten it up, it come loose, you tighten it up, come loose. Eventually the bolt just gives in, it snaps. Not had that issue with this yet, so hopefully I won't encounter any further any issues, to be honest. What I'm on about, I'm just waffling. I did put a quick release on this bike. I'd have to put my normal riding position. This I've got a saloon car, and this won't actually fit into the boot with the seat up, so definitely a convenience feature, and it doesn't have a dropper post, so I can drop the seat out of the way if I need to. Bottle cage at I think it's like a Salitalia one from like years ago that I found in my garage. Does the job. There's no chain on the bike at the minute because I took it off and washed it. Usually what I do is I oil my chains. The bike has been jet washed, so it's still a little bit dirty because I didn't bother going over it with the detergent and sponge and that. But I take the chain off, so I'm not putting the chain back onto the, derailleur with the dirty jockey wheels and the cassette with crud all over it. Now, one thing that did kind of annoy me, and it should never, in my opinion, happen on a bike that you buy from the shop, the bottom bracket was loose, so I had play. I was just looking over the bike and like, oh, there's play. And I'm thinking, oh, is it the bottom bracket's gone? No, it was the bottom bracket was actually loose in the frame. Now the bottom bracket, a lot of the time a bottom bracket will seize in because it's alloy on steel usually, and they like to well it's more steel on alloy really, because it's the bottom bracket that'll be steel that's going into a frame, but they do like to weld each other together and seize. So I had to take the cranks off. I'm not keen on doing this. For me, square taper cranks are a fit and forget thing, so the bottom bracket shouldn't work itself loose. I shouldn't have to take the square taper bottom cranks off, because the more you take these things off, kind of the more, what would be the word? Kind of ovalized the taper becomes, and you kind of have to, the crank has to go more inboard to get the same amount of purchase, because the actual alloy is softer than the steel square taper, so it kind of deforms. So every time you take it off, you have to keep tightening it more and more. So for that reason, the bottom bracket should not work itself loose, in my opinion. It should be well Loctited in there, and it, like I say, it should seize up. I know it's not a good thing to say, but it should seize up anyway, and you shouldn't really have that issue, but it did. So that was very annoying. Gears wise, there's a little bit of play in the lower cage. It's not bad really, because I've had no end of trouble. I had on the high bike, it's now got XT on it, and it did have SRAM NX, and the whole bloody derailleur just play everywhere, in the B-bolt, in the joints, in the cage. Absolute shit show of a rear derailleur. So this has fared very well compared to that. The cassette, I don't even know what brand the cassette is, to be honest. But yeah, I have these Kona Primo pedals that were given to me years ago. Still spin. I recently put these on. It was the first time the other day when I've taken the footage for this video from. It was the first time riding with these. The pedals that come with the bike, they're just cheapo ones. They're absolute death trap. No grip whatsoever. There's no actual pins. They're like molded, and they've got paint on them, and they're just slippy and horrible. So definitely have the old pedal upgrade. I have recently upgraded to, well, you upgraded depending on the way you look at it, SPD pedals. I got some of these Shimano M510s, possibly they're called, on the Vitus. I originally bought them for the high bike just to try them out. This has now got the M30s with the, you can't really see them there, but they, well, you can see that one a bit better. It has a cage on it for a little bit more support. I've not tried these yet, I've only just fitted them, but I managed to not kill myself with the SPDs, and so I thought I'd put them on there, and then I'd upgrade the Vitus with the ones from that bike. I'd only used them about 4 times on there. So again, my kind of upgrade path, the Vitus, let the Carrera have some new pedals after it had its own upgrade. And yeah, I kind of really want to try the clips with the hardtail, but to be honest, I need to upgrade. I don't want to be locked in with a Flexi Suntour fork and these tyres. I'm very good at catching kind of like front wheel drifts, 2-wheel drifts, you know, the ones that have you off the bike. I usually sense them quite early, and I can get my foot off. If I can do that with these bikes, especially with the high bike, because of the plus size tyre on the front. With this bike, as soon as these tyres go, they're going to be gone. The other day when I rode this, again, the video, the footage will be coming from. It's way too late at night to be doing this video. I'm talking absolute shit. It's not making any sense. Where was I? I can't even remember where I was. I've gone completely blank. It was something to do with tire related something. Oh yes, when I rode the other day, it was very wet to begin with, and it was very slippy. Mechanics like the actual kind of trail centre-y trails, the actual main waymarked official trails, they can't, like when you go to a trail centre, you get different types of surfaces. You might get kind of like a shale surface, you might get kind of like a gravel, but it, like when I say gravel, I mean like a hard packed, like a hardcore, you know, whacker plated down, if you know what one of them is. But sometimes you get kind of like the square edge stone that they build the trail with, the little ones, and then you get the little pebbles, or you get the big rocks. But Canic's basically like the little kind of pebbles, and that you know they're compressed down to form the trail. So when they're wet, it's, you know, square edges on round edges, and they don't really grip. But as it dries up, and you get like the tackiness of the mud that's just floating around on top of the trail. Yeah, basically that happens. The trails start to dry up, and then I got more confidence and more grip. So yeah, whilst the tyres aren't the greatest, like I say, on the kind of round edges when wet, on the slippery, stony bits, once it dries up a bit and it gets a bit tacky, they were fine. So I'm not really criticising them too much. And when I started biking, like when I was about 13, 14, you would go out on your bike and just instantly get a puncture. I managed to get around Canic with 25 psi in the front, 30 in the back. I know kind of the general demographic of people that ride this bike will probably think like, oh my god, why are you running tyre pressure so low? You know, I've run 25 in this, probably 25 in that, no, 25, 30 in that. It's a bit more, has to be a bit more skittish. Well, yeah, people are, you know, tubeless running as low as 10 psi. That is, you can't be running 40 psi if you're riding aggressively. You will just two-wheel wash out and just hit the deck. So you got to be running relatively low pressures, but then you've also got to take into account the fact that you're only running a 2.1 tyre and not particularly strong wheels and not particularly durably carcassed tyres, if that makes sense. So there is a little bit of a update on the Carrera, hopefully with some video here and there and a bit of editing interjected to distract from my mundane ramblings. And yeah, I do. These are my two other bikes. I done some videos comparing good bike to a Carrera and stuff like that, and you get all the haters like, oh, what do you expect? It's a £280 bike. Oh. And that's not the point of the video. It's just, displaying, how much better these bikes can be, and also how much more durable. I've only ridden this twice round Cannock. If I'd have ridden it as much as I've ridden these bikes, there probably wouldn't even be a frame here, to be honest. I'd have probably snapped it in half or something. So yeah, thanks for watching and goodbye.